Welcome to episode 71 of The Leap Home. It's a wonderful leap.
In this week's episode, Sam finds himself driving a taxi in New York City, hoping to earn the medallion that will allow him to start his own firm and give his father a chance to rejoin the workforce. When an attempt on his life is thwarted by an apparent guardian angel, Sam must prevent his father making a terrible mistake. But can he intervene in time? Or will even a heavenly helping hand prove insufficient?
What's your name?
Angelita Carmen Guadalupe Cecilia Jimenez a sus órdenes. But for you, Angela.
Angela.
Sí.
Good afternoon, Ian. How are you?
Scunnered, how are you?
What's the matter?
Oh, just a retail-based qualm. No, qualm's the wrong word.
I've been listening to you for moaning about this for about 3 weeks.
10 weeks.
10 is
weeks.
it?
Well, I wasn't moaning the first couple of weeks.
Bed problems.
Ordered a bed, didn't come. Ordered a new bed, didn't come.
A blanket on the ground as Dolly Parton once.
Bit like Angela in this
Yes.
episode.
Okay. Apart from that,
Yeah, fine. Yourself?
yeah, I'm okay. We're starting to see a little bit of spring weather, perhaps even summer weather now.
Yeah, we're getting into the good times.
You've got your jumper off, t-shirt only for
That's
a
it.
change.
And pants, obviously. Well, you can't tell from over there. But
Before we begin this week's discussion, I think you might want to make up for one omission last week.
minor omission.
It's not minor at all.
Barely relevant, I would say.
Very relevant. So we had Marcus Giamatti,
Yes.
who played,
The guy that got murdered in
yes,
the hit and run.
Upfield.
He was in it for about 30 seconds.
Quite a big part, an important part. Anyway,
Minor role.
when you were, I hadn't checked the trivia, but when I was editing it after listening to it again, and Giamatti, that sounds familiar, surely. And I checked, and yeah, of course, it's the brother of,
Oh, Paul Giamatti, yes.
yeah,
Obviously.
Not only that, because the whole point of trivia is any interesting story, any
I mean,
facts.
this is subjective.
So, very famous brother, many awards. I think he's got numerous Emmys. And
Marcus Giamatti doesn't have any enemies.
no, but his brother does. Not only that,
He's got a much more famous brother.
he does have. And grandfather as well. Do you know about that?
I don't care.
Or I should say great-grandfather, Commodore Alfred de Brown, the first and only man to swim the Panama Canal. Also, he assisted Houdini placing the chains and locks around his trunk for his death-defying act. And his father, Bart, was the president of Yale and the Major League Baseball commissioner. Now, this might mean something to you. He banished Pete Rose from the game. I don't know who Pete Rose was.
He was a good player who gambled and was given a lifetime ban. Wasn't allowed in the Hall of Fame or anything like
There we
that.
go. Marcus himself, I think, threw the opening ball in 1989.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's what trivia is all about. These
We had
interesting little
loads of
quirks.
trivia last week. You can only fit so much into an
Yes,
episode.
you left out all the good stuff and mentioned somebody that was once in an episode of Star Trek Deep Space 12.
That's much more interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, this week's episode, we get another encounter with the supernatural. People like it. Well, let's be upbeat, but come on.
I must admit, I enjoyed this episode and I enjoyed the guest star.
I mean, there can be no more doubt that this is an alternate universe.
Of course.
There's none of these things happen in real life, so it's clearly just, so anyone who complains about things being on the wrong date or Buddy Holly not learning from Sam, then it doesn't matter. It's a completely different.
Yeah.
We've also got a bit of an issue with Al's cultural sensitivity in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I liked the fact there was a bit of sort of back and forth banter between him and the guest star, but at times, and this isn't us just being very 2024 woke, at times it seemed like a bit sort of mean-spirited.
Yeah, he's unhappy that Sam has this other advice, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right from the moment he meets her, he is hostile.
Yeah, and I mean, even hostilities can be fine. You don't have to like someone, but it's been very personal and picking on her.
Yeah,
almost
mean-spirited,
bullying.
definitely mean-spirited. It was unbecoming.
Mm-hmm.
Talking of unbecoming, our social media accounts are, as usual, at Leap Home Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, etc. You can find our show notes at theleaphome.com. And if you want to hear next week's episode already, head over to our YouTube channel, Columbo Podcast Productions, where you will find it in all its glory.
That you?
It is.
Let's crack on.
As is often the case, we get the same introduction as we saw in the outro last week.
Sam leaps into a 1950s taxi driver in New York And while checking his quite handsome young face, he literally runs over someone who runs out in front of him, and we have the oh boy.
We do. And after the credits, we return to this New York street. In a voiceover, Sam says he's run into many people, but never over one during his days leaping.
Shocked, he gets out and panics when he spots a pair of old-school stockinged legs protrude from under his vehicle. Rather than wait for any medical assistance, he decides to simply try and drag the quite ample body out.
It takes a bit of effort.
And after this, he eventually releases an older, middle-aged, unconscious woman.
These days, you would not be advised to haul someone who may have a spinal injury from under the car.
Not just drag them by the feet.
No. And even Sam later on says, you better not move. I said, well, it's a bit late now, Sam. You've just hauled her across the street by her legs.
In any case, he soon finds himself prone when she punches him after he pounded on her chest in an attempt to resuscitate her.
Yeah, these are not the type of chest compressions that you would be advised to undergo these days. It certainly wasn't staying alive rhythm, was it?
No.
It was more like punches to the sternum.
Yeah. He then receives a sarcastic verbal assault from the disgruntled Latin American. Is Angelita? Was her name Angelita?
Well, she's told us in the intro clip, but she wants to be known as Angela.
Angela, okay. I've noted here the whole way through for brevity, Ange. I might just call her Ange the rest of the
Big
episode.
Ange.
Big Ange. Yeah.
Yeah, she's fallen into Al's trap.
Oh.
I enjoyed what she said here, because Sam says he's trying to save her life, and she asks if he's doing it by running her down and beating her up.
She then rejects the offer of an ambulance, I think, and dismisses the notion that she's dead.
Yeah, well, I think she laughs at even the idea that she could be dead.
She is clearly a sassy individual. She complains about the skid mark across her. Now, at first I thought she'd said colon, but it's a Spanish phrase, it's culo,
Okay.
which I think's Spanish for ass.
Right.
He starts to apologise before she claims that them meeting like this wasn't what was intended.
Sam's a little bit confused, but he collects her hat and lipsticks from the road.
As she gives him her full name, as we heard at the top of the podcast.
Yes, and then demonstrates her virility and health by dancing a Charleston.
This, I think, is a nod to It's a Wonderful Life, because there's a famous scene in that where there's
a few nods. I think at one point they're on 34th Street
right
as well.
Okay. Were you thinking of Miracle on 34th Street?
Yeah.
Not It's a Wonderful Life.
No, but that's, I think
Okay,
that's also in this.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry. A few nods to things, not also nods to It's a Wonderful Life, yes.
Now, at this point, Sam takes a call on his taxi radio from dispatch, reminding him that his father, Lenny, is waiting for him at the office, and as he talks, he sees his licence, which reveals some information about who he is.
Which is?
He is Max Greenman. Apparently, he's 170 pounds, he's aged 22, he's 5'9" with brown eyes, and lives in Brooklyn on the 10th of May 1958.
That's a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
He's told one more piece of information, which we don't quite understand at this point.
What's that?
That he needs to get the cab back to the office pronto because anyone working more than a double shift is disqualified from the contest.
He ends the conversation and then offers Ange a lift home. But when he realises she doesn't have a home, he asks if there is somewhere that she's going to sleep.
Yeah, she indicates that the stars make a good view ceiling. I'm not sure, I can't remember the exact word that she used, but she refers to sleeping outdoors anyway.
Yeah, I think just before that as well, she puts in a sort of faux outrage. You know, when he says, like, where are you going to sleep? She pretends that you don't ask a lady this question.
Of course.
And then contradicts herself immediately by spitting out a bug.
That was a good line as well. It's just completely off the line of the conversation. Just refer. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
She was very good.
Throughout the episode, fantastic.
We're now in the taxi. She continues to be quite the character and whacks him on the head for driving too fast, causing him to point out that she's lucky to be alive. And he thought she was dead when he couldn't find her pulse, which I think this is the first, or not the first, but it's another indication that she might not be entirely human.
Or as she seems anyway.
Yeah.
At this point, Sam slams on the brakes as Al walks out in front of him entirely unnecessarily. Well, he doesn't know it's Al, I suppose, straight away.
And after running over someone, you might be a little bit nervous.
Of course.
Al joins him in the front seat beside him, and Sam admits that he can't quite remember the cab company's address.
Yes, both Al and Angela give him advice on where to find a business card that might have it on it.
Al suggests the glove box, but Ange puts his nose out of joint when her suggestion to check the ashtray is correct, along with directions to the O'Connor cab company.
Yes, she gets it right. Al gets it wrong.
So inside the business, Lenny, who is Sam's dad,
Yep.
and some of the other drivers are settling bets when Frank O'Connor, the owner, enters and reminds him that Sam is going to end up getting disqualified if he doesn't get back soon.
Yes, and at this point there's a little bit of a... I don't know if it's a mistake, but Lenny says to Frank that Sam's only $50 short of the mark he needs to hit to earn the medallion.
Okay.
However, he then gets that information from Sam a few moments later, so he doesn't know it yet, but he's able to tell Frank. Unless he's just happens to be right, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he would have known from the previous night how much Sam was on.
So he might have been guessing.
Maybe it's a standard, every morning he makes X
Roughly.
amount or whatever, yeah. Now, it's at this point that we find out what this competition, this bet's all about.
Yeah, so if Sam is able to, I think, turn over $1,500, so that would be double that we learn later
15,000.
Is it 15,000?
Yeah. In the year.
Okay, and he's $50 short.
Yeah.
That seems like a small amount to be short.
Very small, yeah.
Yeah, so if he hits this target, he's going to earn a medallion, which allows him to operate his own taxi company, and he will be, as his father calls him, a free man.
Mm-hmm. Just to be clear, what happens is, because he's effectively just a driver, an employee,
Yeah.
they split halfway. So the company, Frank gets half of all the money.
Yeah. And Sam gets the benefit of working for a company that people know about and has business cards and marketing and whatever else going for it.
I think that's in most countries at that point, or even today, that's what happens. You don't own the company, you're just a driver.
Yeah. They should have mentioned, I think, at this point, some of the stuff that comes up later about Lenny.
Yeah, perhaps we can discuss that a little bit later on, but there seemed to be something brought up down the line that isn't hinted at here at all.
No, there's not even, a shadow of it. But anyway, Tony, at this point, one of the other drivers, is called away by Frank, and they leave the room before Sam and Angela show up.
With Al, who reminds him to take his trip sheet from the cab, as Ange requests that Sam open the door for her, which adds to Al's irritation.
It does.
And after changing his more formal dad to Pop, he introduces Ange to him and leaves them together as he and Al will move outside for their first private chat of the leap.
That's good. Now, let's see. Sam, I know. I'm a New York cabbie. My name is Max Greenman.
Yeah, that's right. And it's May
10th, 1958.
I guess you don't need me around here, do you? And you probably already know why you're here, too.
I do.
Look, why?
I do. For her.
What?
Yes.
For Carmen Miranda without
Yes.
the banana hat? Come on.
I'm sure of it, Al. That's why I ran over it today.
Over?
Yes.
What, you mean with your cab?
It was an accident.
Well, I wasn't assuming that you did on purpose. Although, come to think of it, considering her attitude.
Al.
Hey, you know what? She
What?
could have thrown herself in front of your cab.
Oh, come on.
No, there's lots of people do that. They make millions of dollars staging these phony accidents for the insurance.
Al, she's homeless, okay? Now, I want you to run a check on Angela, Carmen, Guadalupe, Cecilia, Jimenez.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, there's going to be a lot of them in the phone book. Sure. Sorry, Ziggy says nada.
I must be here to help her find a home or a shelter or something, I guess.
Sam, this is 1958. People still refer to the homeless as bums and vagrants. A woman on the street like that, she's not going to find shelter unless it's in a jail or a mental institution.
You should not be tempted to listen to that devil. He don't know what he's talking about.
And which devil might you be talking about?
The one in the horrible red suit?
Well, that's a twist.
Most certainly.
It's not the first time that someone's been able to see Al, of course.
No, it's not that much of a shock, to be honest. I liked Al's red suit, and it reminded me a little bit. He wouldn't look out of place in Dick Tracy.
No, and the hat was in particular, yeah. I think Al's got an explanation for why she can see him.
What's that?
Well, he points out to Sam that small children, animals, and the mentally ill have always been able to see him.
Yeah. I think there's also a little bit of back and forth with them having digs at each other.
Yeah.
She claims that Al gives her the GB-heebies.
Yes, and says that she saw him when he first arrived, but thought if she ignored him, he might go away.
His opinion of her being crazy seems to be supported when she announces that she is an angel, and said as much when she told Sam her name.
Al says that they must serve plenty of sweets in heaven, but harsh.
That's what I'm saying, it's
unnecessary.
I really don't understand why his nose is put out of joint. Is it because she was right about the business card and the directions?
Probably, yeah. It's a competition, isn't it, for Sam's attention?
Yeah. In any case, she goes on to state that she was born as a little angel but grew up, which allows Al again to laugh at her weight, causing her to tell him that he won't be getting into heaven as they've got a dress code.
She heads back inside and Al announces his scepticism, but Sam is immediately open to the possibility.
Yeah, because he said he did actually run her over and yet she's still alive. So in fairness to Sam, if you did
It's based on evidence.
hit someone, you would think, yeah, there's something going on here.
Yeah. You know, he drove over her literally. And
Literally,
there
yeah,
was
there's
not a
a bump, yeah. In any case, he says that she needs help, but Al informs him that the leap is for Max's benefit, as the following evening he is shot and ends up in a coma for the rest of his life.
This sets up a conundrum for Sam, because if he doesn't go out and drive his taxi the following night, he won't get the money he needs to earn the medallion.
Yeah, but that's not really a decision, is it? It's not a conundrum. It's like you either get money and die, or don't die. Well, don't die, and then you have to worry down the line about something else.
Yeah, how important is it to get the medallion?
It's not. I mean, having the money is useless if you're dead. So
Yeah.
to me, this isn't a...
But Sam thinks he can do everything.
But at this point, they're interrupted by the scream from a delighted Ange telling them that Lenny has invited her for dinner. I should say, I think I've noted here a few times I've called him Larry.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's Lenny. If we say Larry, we mean Lenny.
Is it her pronunciation?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Anyhow,
Where are we?
in Lenny's apartment, Angela explains to him that as an angel, she does not require to eat.
Lenny laughs at this and at the fact that she met Sam when he literally ran her over before toasting new friends and Sam's apparent upcoming success.
Yes, he's very proud that Sam's on the verge of this medallion.
Clearly. And as Sam goes to the kitchen, we can see Lenny and Ange they're very comfortable together, as he even points out that she has something in her teeth. Now, that didn't make sense. She's not eating.
Yeah, but I think he's just using it as an excuse.
You think? For what? By making someone feel embarrassed? Oh, you've
Or
got
maybe it's the fly from earlier
Right,
that she thought flew away.
Anyhow, in the kitchen.
Al has nothing on Angela, which is not proof of being an angel.
No, not at all. He's quite defensive, actually.
He also points out that if she is an angel, she didn't do a very good job first time around because obviously Max was killed.
It's a fair point, yeah. This leads Sam to suggest that maybe he is there to help her not make a mistake, but Al thinks that opens up a whole other can of worms and tells him to focus on not getting shot.
Yeah, so as you say, Sam points out that this can't be the case because Sam would otherwise just be going around clearing up after guardian angels that made mess of their assignments.
Yeah. Now, at this point, Sam asks where and when his murder happens, and after being told, he simply says that he won't be anywhere near there. And
He's so smug.
he also has two guardian angels, but we know this doesn't work. You can't just say, I won't go to that place, because history changes and you still get shot or die or whatever it is. So I'm not sure why he thinks that's just the easy way out.
I don't know, but there's a fun exchange now as Lenny comes through.
He enters the kitchen and overhears his conversation, but is happy to hear that he's just talking to thin air, and pours himself some more wine.
Yes, it's not that he's had too much to drink, so he's okay to have one more glass.
And when Al leaves, Lenny admits to being happy at hearing the sound of a woman's voice in his home for the first time in a long time.
From the other room, we hear Angela at the piano before she starts to sing.
Yeah, they're both, I think, quite taken aback by this.
Yes, Lenny's captivated.
Yeah, they walk through to the living area and listen as the music brings a tear to Lenny's eye, and he glances at a picture of his deceased wife.
Yes. When the song comes to an end, Angela tells Lenny that she found the paper or the sheet music in the piano stool and thought he would like to hear it.
An emotional Lenny leaves with the picture, and Sam asks Ange about her motivation.
You knew that was their song. How?
Before I came here, I learned many things about you and your family. I know many things. Like your father needs you now.
Hey, Pop.
Go away, Max. I don't want you to see me like this.
It's okay, Pop. She was beautiful, huh?
You have no idea, Maxie. No idea. She was only 18 when we took this. Some Photoshop down in Atlantic City. I remember the first time I ever kissed her. It was like breathing in life.
You miss her.
You only got left, kid. And we're going to show him, right? We did 42 years for tomorrow. He won't let me down.
Back in the living room, Sam starts to put his jacket on, but takes it back off when Ange invites herself to stay the night, but agrees that they will get her own place in the morning. How is that going to work?
I don't know that she really agrees. She just doesn't.
No, but how does Sam think that he's going to find a homeless person a place to stay in the morning?
Even at night.
Anywhere.
Yeah. I'm going to dump you at some kind of hostel.
We're now in the cab.
It's the next morning and Sam and Angela are driving along and she's very excited to see a sign for West Side Story.
Yeah, she proudly tells him that it's about Puerto Ricans and actually stars real people from there.
Yes, the Sharks.
Yeah. She's got front row tickets.
Al shows up at this point and has found someone matching Angela's name in Ziggy's records.
That's true. But before, no, I think that's actually, again, another little nod. She says, she gets the sort of best seats in the house.
Yeah.
And Sam says, well, how did you get them? You're homeless. And she says, I've got connections.
Right.
You know,
You know people who know people.
Yeah, you know the big man?
The big guy. Well known for his intervention in box offices.
Yeah, okay, so what has Al found out?
He's found out that someone with Angela's name did exist, but died in 1928. And she says, oh boy.
The way he says it, it's almost like that's a win for him. Is
Yeah.
it triumphant? Is that
That's a win for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she died. She's
so
died.
she's an angel, yeah.
Yeah.
She states again that she is who she says she is, and after some more fat shaming from Al, she jokes that she gets stuck in limbo and got hungry. Sam then mentions Clarence from It's a Wonderful Life, which doesn't go down too well, as apparently everyone expects angels to be like him.
Yes.
That's a stereotype.
For all angels.
Yeah.
At least it's not the woman out of touch by an angel.
You don't want touched by anyone, to be fair.
Well, that's got a whole different connotation these days. Angela tells the story of how she became an angel.
How was that?
She was a performer and she fell. Splat.
She was a Puerto Rican Fanny Bryce.
The reason that she became an angel is because she was judged to have been both vain and egotistical during her lifetime.
And yes, and so she was sent back to learn some humility by helping others.
She doesn't know specifically why she's here, but she thinks that something bad is going to happen in the next day or so.
And she says that after she helps him, she'll move on, much like himself, and no one will remember her ever being there.
I think she suggests at some point that they might remember her, but the other people of this time won't.
Okay.
That might be later on. Al doesn't want to talk to Sam with Angela around anyway, so he goes and waits outside the cab.
Yeah, Sam pulls over, I think it's a warehouse, and gets out to speak with the disgruntled and still sceptical hologram. But Sam lists some of the evidence, including not eating, which Al disputes, big time. But as they argue, Ange again starts to sing.
She's singing a song from West Side Story.
And even Al now admits that this does sound angelic.
I'm not sure that's proof.
No, not at all.
Anyhow, Sam still is obsessing about finding her somewhere to live.
Quite like this, but as they're talking, if you watch in the background, she's trying to sort of casually lean or get up in the taxi, but can't quite make. She's not big enough. And she's
A bit of
falling
physical
down.
comedy.
Yeah, it was funny.
Al tells Sam the best plan is to do what he needs to do tonight to get his medallion and not get shot, and then tomorrow they can look into finding her somewhere to live if he's still there.
The chubby cherub. Again, it's constantly going for this.
Dig.
So, we're in a cab later that night.
Yeah, there's a man and an irritating child there.
He looks like a scumbag, that little kid.
I think they've missed the lead here. I think that Sam's real purpose on this leap was to murder this child.
Yeah, to stop as a truck was passing and say, yeah, it's safe to get out.
Yes, that would probably have been a greater service to the human race.
Why did you say this?
Oh, well, we learned that the young man is a childhood version of Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's Donald Trump and his dad.
Fred.
If only. It's like most people, you talk about if you could go back and kill Hitler. People always sort of fantasise about that and how it would change the world.
But then in that last Indiana Jones movie, one of the bad guys wanted to go back and kill Hitler because he wasn't ruthless enough.
Anyhow, where are we? We're later on.
Yes, Angela is counting the money as Al reports a bit of bad news. He has messed up.
Why?
Ziggy forgot that they're not on mountain time. And
how can Ziggy make such a mistake? It sounds ridiculous.
Well, New Mexico's on mountain time, I presume.
This is the most powerful computer in the world.
Yeah, you'd think, and it's also many years difference, so the time difference must always be a factor. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
But the point is, he's now not going to die in 2 hours, he's going to die pretty much now.
Yeah, and at this point, they see a car that looks suspicious because it's got no headlights on.
It drives past and turns its headlights down as it does so. Yeah. He ignores Ange and Sam makes a big mistake here.
He does, he takes the wrong advice.
Yeah, he listens to Al and turns down what happens to be up a dead end in alley.
Yes, so he gets Angela to take the money and hide. However,
it seems like it was a worry over nothing when we see the car pass by.
It does, but
the relief is short-lived.
Very short-lived, as a robber in a balaclava shows up and points his gun directly at Sam and asks for the money.
Yeah, he orders him out and tells him to put his money on the hood, but when he asks where the money box is, Ange appears holding it and walks towards him, confident that she can't be hurt. Now, why would she get out? Is this so that Sam doesn't die?
Yes, she's saving Sam.
Okay.
At this point, she is, in fact, shot and collapses to the ground as the man runs off with the money,
leaving Sam crouching over her unconscious body for a second time. He searches for a bullet hole, which causes her to laugh at his tickling.
Yes. Ultimately, though, he does find 2 bullet holes.
Yes, he sees that she's uninjured, but there is a hole through her coat, the front and the back.
Al suggests maybe that she spun as the bullet was fired and it went under her arm but through her clothing.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point Sam is now fully convinced, and Al must. I think he's trying to just, it's the last remnants of his argument. I think he's probably realises that he's in the wrong.
But he wants to maintain his stoic skepticism, despite the fact he's totally on board with the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, exactly. In any case, Al tells Sam that Max now doesn't get shot, but Sam still has to help him get the medallion.
So
they head back to O'Connor's, where Sam rather optimistically thinks that his boss may be sympathetic to his situation.
What? At least you're still alive, right? And I want that medallion. I mean, I had all the money tonight. Well, until I got robbed. So, Mr. O'Connor, what I need is for you to extend the deadline one more day.
Look, Max, I'm not going to BS you or anything. I'm glad I didn't have to give that medallion away. I can broker it for 20 G's on the street tomorrow. The only thing I'm sorry about is seeing you lose it in this way.
Oh, sure he is. Ask him about company loyalty. Lenny started working at this company for his father over 42 years ago.
Lenny started working with your father over 42 years ago.
What's my father got to do with this?
He gave you the company.
Nothing, except that I feel like the time that Lenny and I have put into this company deserves some consideration, that's all.
What more do you want? I let him hang out here and waste away his retirement years.
He misses his friends.
A man should know when it's time to move on.
Unless he's forced to move on before his time.
Look, it's a sad fact of life, but it was Lenny's time to retire.
That's your opinion, not his.
I'm the boss.
Thanks to your father.
My father may have started this business, but I run it. I'm carrying on in my family tradition. Just like you did tonight by losing out.
Lenny's not a loser.
No, just a big talker. He'll never accept that the 2 of you was always meant to work for someone else. I know. It's a hard fact to live with.
How would you know? You had your whole life handed to you.
Goodbye, Max.
was nice working with you.
A little bit like Donald Trump there himself. His whole life handed to him.
Yeah. Except Trump had how would you say it? He made it all worse.
Now that was, we referenced that earlier in the podcast.
Yes, Lenny's background.
Sam has never, this was never brought up, it was never hinted at that Lenny was in some way being, felt as if he's worthless now and that he was being allowed to hang around here. And Sam, how would Sam know this?
Yeah, it feels like a scene's been removed.
Yeah.
Where we find out about all this.
Yeah, because the whole thing about Lenny is he's missing his wife, that's what we know.
Yes, we don't know anything about him being lonely because he still comes in and talks to the guys.
Yeah.
He seems perfectly happy when he does so.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He doesn't indicate any kind of longing to, even if he's like, oh, you can get your medallion and I could work with you. That's one line earlier on could have set this all up.
For sure. We're back at the apartment.
Oh, this is sad.
Things get worse when Sam heads home with Ange to find his dad has got banners up and a cake to celebrate his victory in the competition. This reminded me a little bit of Uncle Jailbird Joey in Back to the Future.
Right. Yes, I felt bad for Lenny here.
Yeah. Sam breaks the bad news to his devastated father, and not only that, but that he got fired.
Lenny says he's going to talk to Frank and walks off.
Yeah, he strides through to his bedroom where he takes a gun and a document, I think it's a life insurance document, which he leaves under the photo of his wife. Now, they're out in the living room.
Yep.
After a while, they go through to see, or Sam goes through to see where Lenny is.
Yes, and he's not there.
No, he sneaked out probably out the window and down the fire escape.
Angela and Al have yet again conflicting advice for Sam.
What's that?
Well, throughout the episode it's been set up, Al's wrong, Angela's right, all the way through. At this point, Al thinks that Lenny's off to kill Frank.
Well, yeah, they found the insurance documents and a box of bullets.
Yes. Angela therefore thinks he's going to kill himself. Mm-hmm. But Sam knows that you won't be able to claim the life insurance if there's, or I think Al said there'll be a suicide clause.
Of course. And after checking with Ziggy, he states that Lenny has gone to kill O'Connor unless he gives him the medallion. That's weird as well. And in fairness, they do bring it up, but it's strange thinking by Lenny.
Well, I think he's just desperate at this point. And he says himself in a moment that he's got nothing to live for anyway.
Mm-hmm. Now, Ange still insists it's suicide. And I quite like this. I hadn't really thought about this before. So she says what you do is you kill yourself at the side of the river. The gun falls into the water and gets lost and it looks like you've been murdered, which is quite a good trick. I'm not
suggesting you try it.
No, but...
I mean, you still have issues with things like powder burn. Maybe the river would deal with that.
This is back in the 50s.
Sam has to decide who to believe.
He goes on trust for old time's sake.
Well, he believes that Al's more persuasive on this occasion and heads to O'Connor's.
Yeah, it turns out Al was right, as we see Lenny catch O'Connor as he's leaving for the night.
Yes, he pulls his gun out and backs Frank into his office.
Yeah, I think he punches him first and then, hustles them into the office as the dispatcher calls the cops.
When Sam shows up, one of the other drivers is standing outside. It's Tony, who we saw earlier on, be called away by Frank.
Yeah, no, we should say that the cops are there as well at this point.
They are.
This driver, he's quite shaken. He stops Sam as he approaches one of the cops and tells him that it's all his fault as he looks over at Ange.
He's visibly shocked to see her.
Yeah. And then the cop tells Sam that he's got 2 minutes to try and talk his father out of it.
So we see Sam enter the building and Lenny announces that he's here for what Sam is owed.
O'Connor, he points out the obvious. He says, you can't run here. You know, you'll be jailed even if you get the medallion. It's going to be worthless.
Is the medallion, like if you physically hold it, is that it? So if he murders Frank and takes the medallion, is Sam allowed to then start a taxi company?
No. It's effectively just a license.
Yeah, so he's got to persuade him to hand it over. He can't. Yeah.
And as Sam distracts Lenny by coming to the office door, we see O'Connor do what?
He reaches in his own drawer for a gun of his.
Yeah.
Sam tries to talk Lenny down by saying that he needs him to stick around and be his partner when he gets his own firm.
Yeah, I think Lenny is saying his life's over. He doesn't have a wife. Sam hasn't won this competition. He's got nothing to live for. But as you say, Sam thinks that they can sit up together and he'll be a
and he
driver.
says that he needs him.
Yeah.
It's his father and he needs him and he has to hand the gun over.
I'm thinking, doesn't matter. Lenny is is effed at this point. You can't be pulling guns and threatening people. In this country just now, taxi drivers, a bit like publicans.
Yeah.
Any black marks against your name, you get your license revoked.
That's true.
I don't think that,
However, if the receptionist hasn't seen the gun, maybe 2 against 1, he didn't have a gun.
Possibly.
Because all the police see is Sam holding the gun.
Yeah, okay.
However, there's a bit of a twist before the police show up.
What's that?
As Lenny hands his gun to Sam, Frank pulls his from the drawer and fires.
Sam manages to kick the table at him and disarm him. But as you say, just as he picks up the gun, the cops enter it. It doesn't look good.
No, he's holding 2 guns at this point.
Jimmy 2 guns.
A wee bit of time passes, and outside we see Frank telling the cops his version of events.
I think he's been believed too easily. I think Sam would be down the station as well at this point to try and sort this out. Shots have been fired.
Yeah.
He's been found with a gun. It's not like, oh, this is what happened. Okay,
Yeah.
we believe you.
At this point, though, Sam puts 2 and 2 together and figures out what went on earlier.
Yeah, I think this is quite obvious what happened.
Well, Tony, who looked just like the robber, turns out to have been the robber and was doing it on Frank's behalf. Obviously, so Sam didn't get the medallion.
Yeah, I think he clocked onto this when two things.
Yeah.
He saw the reaction of Tony.
Yes, and it's the same gun.
Yeah. That was stuck through his cab window at him.
Yeah, and Frank says to the policeman, "You can't believe this guy," and the policeman says, "I do."
Which is weird, yeah.
Well, maybe he just sees the gun and is like, yeah, this is probably what happened.
Yeah, and ultimately he is led away for a questioning. Now, at this point, Al reveals that both O'Connor and Lenny get probation, which seems weird, but anyhow.
Yeah.
So O'Connor loses his licence and Lenny or Sam get a medallion.
Whether it's the medallion or a medallion, yes. And he's allowed to, or able to, run a taxi company with his father, although they're only ever able to afford one car. That's all they need.
Yeah. Everyone doesn't need to be a Donald Trump, thankfully.
Yeah.
And this only leaves Angela with Sam to deal with as he catches up with her down the alleyway.
Angela! What are you doing? Where you going?
Well, it's my time to leave now.
What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah, is this the part where nobody's going to remember you were ever here?
Well, not you, but people in this time. You're gonna forget about me, but I will always remember you, Sam.
Sam?
Who do you think I was sent here to really look after?
You're not really going to let it go, are you? Who? Who? Angelita.
Huh? Do I know her?
Huh? Do you know her? Quit fooling around, Sam.
What?
You know what I'm talking about Angelita, the angel.
The angel. Al, come on. There's no such thing as angels.
When she says Sam, they seem quite surprised, but Al's been calling him Sam in front of her the whole way through, and we know that she can see Al.
Yeah, but I think it's a reference to that it was Sam that she was yet to
Yes,
help.
but she hadn't been calling him Sam up until then. And
Yeah.
Okay. We see Sam leap into what appears to be a doctor, and a woman dies in front of him, and her husband grabs Sam and accuses him of murdering his wife.
Oh boy.
So, was Sam messing with Al there, or did he really forget her?
He really forgot her. Yeah.
So she is an angel, and
In this-
they exist in this universe.
Yeah, in this universe, yeah, for sure.
Are you happy that everyone got a fair resolution? We don't know what happened to Tony.
Yeah, the robber. Yeah, he shot someone.
Well, no, he didn't.
Well, he did, as far as,
There's no evidence for that. Sam can say he did, but
No, we're talking about
she's not
justice here. This is a robber who was happy to shoot someone.
there. In fact, the evidence is going to be tough because Sam's not there anymore, and Max
No,
didn't
but
see
you
it.
didn't ask me if he'd be convicted. You asked me if I'm happy
Oh,
that...
for a fair resolution. Okay.
Yeah, he got away with, happily trying to kill someone.
Okay, so the purpose of this leap was to keep Sam alive and get his medallion. Did Sam do that, or did Angela do that? Bit of both?
That both, I think, yeah. which is fine. It was a good partnership. I'd like to see her come back.
Team up.
Yeah, team up, yeah.
Some sort of buddy cop.
A recurring role, yeah. I mean, once a season or once or twice would be good.
Yeah, so you could do a whole series based on a guardian angel. Anyhow, bit of trivia, or you got anything else to say?
No. I thought
it's a good episode.
It's a fun episode, yes. And I think the guest star made it.
She was superb.
Who is she?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
This originally aired on the 1st of April 1992 after a 3-week break. Directed by Paul Brown. We've heard about him before. He also has a writing credit. It's the 13th writing credit, but his only directorial credit for the series. You can hear a bit more about him if you go to the podcast for Kamikaze Kid. The other writer, or the other person with the writing credit, is Danielle Alexandra. She's a bit interesting. She went on to write the screenplay for G.I. Jane, and she had previously created the 80s sitcom My Two Dads. But
Yes.
that's pretty much it. So she's got these 3 big things.
Yeah.
And not a lot else in terms of screenwriting, but she has done a lot of other things. She's on the RFK Human Rights Foundation Leadership Council. She's the CEO and founder of the Boston Film Group. She works for the UK government as the Prime Minister's business ambassador to the creative industries. She's got various other current roles as well.
That's impressive. Well, maybe that's why she's only done so much. She found her calling somewhere else.
Could be. Angelita, played by Liz Torres. This was her only Quantum Leap. She's twice Emmy nominated for her work on the Jean Larroquette show, and once for her guest role on the famous Teddy Z. She's also appeared on Broadway and in shows like Gilmore Girls, most recently Desperate Housewives, ER, and one episode of Sledgehammer.
What one was that?
She was a maid in Brother, Can You Spare a Crime?
That was the one with Patrick Wayne
Right.
in it. If you remember, it was Sledge's more suave and sophisticated
Right.
sibling.
Yes, I do remember it. She's now 76, still active, and her brother is Paul Giamatti. Jerry Adler played Lenny Greenman, Sam's father, or Max's father. This was his only Quantum Leap. He's also been in things like The Good Wife, Curb Your Enthusiasm, The Sopranos, The West Wing. He actually worked as a stage manager in theatre and on the TV shows Search for Tomorrow and Santa Barbara for many, many years, and didn't begin his screen acting career until he was in his 60s.
That's what I'm going to do.
He's now 95. His most recent screen credit was 2019, just before the pandemic. Frank was played by Peter Iacangelo. His only Quantum Leap. He was also in Fight Club, Murphy Brown, Alf, and Cheers. He was a private acting coach, but he died in 2021 at the age of 73. Elizabeth the Dispatcher. She was played by Robin Freites. She's not had a huge screen career. She was in, I think, a cult classic Puppet Master, horror thing. But she's been a teacher since 2013, now specifically teaches ELA, I think English and Language Arts, at a Catholic school in Beverly Hills. And she's a futsal coach.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tony the Killer was played by Jack Orend. This was his only Quantum Leap. He's also been in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Blues Brothers, Casino, ER. His last screen credit was 2007. Lucky, one of the other drivers, was played by Milt Cogan.
Okay.
Again, his only Quantum Leap. He had a promising basketball career that ended before it really got going at the professional level by a knee injury. He went on to medical school and then turned to acting in the 1960s before serving in Europe with the US Army. He's appeared in things like Mission Impossible, Starsky and Hutch. He was in E.T., 3 Columbos.
Oh, 3, was he?
He was the dubbing chief in Make Me a Perfect Murder.
Right.
And he played a medical examiner in both Columbo Goes to the Guillotine and Grand Deceptions.
Ah, okay.
He's now 88. He works a farm in California and takes on occasional acting roles. Mo, another one of the drivers, played by Doug McHugh. He was also in Candyman, Law and Order, Cheers, and one Columbo.
Was he?
He was the bartender in Sex and the Married Detective.
Right, yes.
Remember that iconic scene with the cigarette and the total change of image for the killer, yeah.
Of course.
Fred Trump, father of Despicable Dawn, was played by Vaughn Armstrong.
Right.
He'll be a familiar face to most Star Trek fans, I would think. He was not in the original series, and this was his only Quantum Leap, but he did appear in Star Trek Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and lots of Enterprise. Also in Seinfeld, ER, West Wing, Mad Men. He's now 73, still active. The policeman at the end was played by Frank Girardeau. His only Quantum Leap. He's also been in things like Born on the 4th of July, Law and Order, Road Trip, and Revolutionary Road. Last screen credit was 2008. The young Donald Trump was played by Justin Thompson. This was his only Quantum Leap. If I said he had gone on to have a stellar screen career, it would be like a Trump property valuation, a huge exaggeration. He was in a couple of things, Boy Meets World and Soccer Dog, European Cup, the second Soccer Dog movie.
My favourite.
I think he went to Scotland. I think Soccer Dog went to Scotland in that one.
Okay.
Finally, we don't normally talk about the guys who play the reflections because this is usually the only thing they've ever done. But this one, the reflection of Max that you saw at the start of the episode that caused the accident, was played by Ross Partridge. It's his only Quantum Leap. But he's been in things, most recently, Stranger Things. He played the father of Will Byers.
Oh, right. So Winona Ryder's
Ex-husband, yes.
Yeah, that's good.
He's also been in things like Billions, The Blacklist, and Daisy Jones and the Six. He's now 56, still very active. So that means he was only in his 20s,
Yeah.
I guess, when this was done.
He was a young guy, yeah.
General trivia, 7th time someone other than Sam has seen Al.
Okay.
Sam's Taxi is a checker marathon. In terms of things that we learned.
Well, before we get to that, I've got some other trivia.
Okay, fire away.
We mentioned Fanny Bryce.
Your favourite?
That's my favourite type of... all right. So she was, back in the day, very successful, very popular. She was a singer, a dancer, a comedian, an all-rounder. And the Barbara Streisand movie Funny Girl was based on her life story. The New York medallions, they went up and down in price over the years, sometimes very highly sought after. They peaked in 2013. You'd have to put up or have $1 million to get one back then. But they have since fallen to under 130k.
You wouldn't want to have bought one back then.
A lot of people did. I think a lot of people were putting everything into it, remortgaging houses, etc.
Is this to do with Uber?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
So it came along and now it's worthless, but they're having to pay off these massive loans, which they can't because
they can't get the
the work and the value of it. So you could have sold it in the past. That's what you do.
It would hold value,
or increase in value.
Yeah,
you could pass it on. That
and also, folks that would have worked for you will now work for themselves,
of course,
without needing one.
Yep.
Okay. Things that we learned: Sam's more gullible than Al in terms of believing in things, or more credulous, maybe better.
I'm not sure in this case. Like, obviously, the angels don't exist, but in this case,
she did,
and the evidence that he was presented with is convincing, compelling.
Okay. Do you have anything else for?
I mean, I was a bit of an arse. I've seen it a few times,
and culturally insensitive, and a bit of a fat shamer.
Yeah, I mean, there's no need for it.
In terms of on this date, I've got Red Skelton, the comedian. His 9-year-old son died of leukemia. Rick Santorum, the well-known, what's the right word? Well, his name is used for, it's a term that he wasn't comfortable with, let's put it that way. Folk can look it up themselves. And also, the next day, May the 11th, which is also part of this episode, Marlon Brando's son Christian was born. He would go on to spend 5 years in prison for manslaughter and died of pneumonia in 2008 when he was 49.
That's my 3 bits of trivia also. Okay. We have number ones. In the US, it was the Everly Brothers with All I Have to Do Is Dream. And in the UK, it was Connie Francis with Who's Sorry Now. Okay, next time we have Moments to Live, where Sam, contrary to what we just saw, has to escape from a kidnapper as he leaps into a soap star with an obsessed fan. So, we'll see you in 1985. Until then, cheerio. Bye-bye.